There's been a lot of talk in the last several weeks about whether or not Israel is implementing the quote-unquote general's plan for northern Gaza and what this means for the trajectory of the war. In this summary, I'm going to talk about what the plan is, why it is so controversial, what is Israel's official position, and why it has been suggested that Israel is implementing the plan without officially declaring it. I'm Alon Burstein. Let's dive in. The General's Plan refers to a plan that was developed by retired IDF General Eiland at the beginning of September 2024. It was embraced by a series of former IDF generals of different ranks, and thus it has become known either as the Eiland Plan or the General's Plan, even though it's important to note that it has not been officially accepted by any current serving IDF generals. The plan focuses on the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, the area that is north of the Netzarim corridor that is shown here, that red line that goes across the strip separating the northern parts of the Gaza Strip from the southern parts. The Netzarim corridor is one of the few places in the Gaza Strip where the IDF has established permanent positions in the war, i.e. it has built outposts and checkpoints along this Netzarim corridor, and it separates the southern parts of the Gaza Strip from the entire northern parts of Gaza City and its surrounding satellite regions such as Sajaiya, Jabalia refugee camp, Zaytun, other areas that you've heard about as the fighting raged in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip. Prior to the war, roughly 1.2 million Palestinians lived in the areas north of the Netzarim corridor. Currently, it is estimated that between 250,000 and 300,000 Palestinians remain in this area. It's important to note, while Palestinians are permitted to travel southward beyond the Netzarim corridor, i.e. to go from the northern parts of the Gaza Strip to the southern parts, they are not permitted to return past the Netzarim corridor towards the northern parts of the Gaza Strip. Hamas's demand that Palestinians be permitted to return to the northern parts of Gaza has been one of the major sticking points in the hostage and truce negotiations over the last several months. So what does the General's Plan call for? In an attempt to combat Hamas rebuilding and rearming itself in the areas the IDF evacuates, i.e. in every area after the fighting subsides the IDF evacuates and Hamas has been rebuilding, the plan proposes that the IDF will grant all Palestinians remaining in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, i.e. the parts that are above the Netzarim corridor, 1 week to evacuate before declaring the entire region a closed military zone. Now, it's important to understand this is substantially different from the evacuation orders that have been issued by the IDF throughout the entire war. Those orders declare that an area is going to become an active fighting zone and thus, quote-unquote, encourage Palestinian civilians to evacuate those areas and move towards safe zones. In turn, declaring an area a closed military zone could mean that it will become illegal for anyone to remain in the area, so this is much more of an order to leave the area instead of a suggestion this is going to become a fighting zone and you should leave. Crucially, in addition to this, as part of the plan, after that 1 week of evacuation, all humanitarian aid would be cut off from the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, imposing complete suffocating siege on anyone who remains in the area. According to the plan, this will allow the IDF to take complete control of the area and purge it from all hostile combatants who have remained. In addition, the IDF will be able to clear the area of all weaponry, terrorist infrastructure, with any Hamas militants that have chosen to remain in the region having no choice but to surrender. When proposing the plan, Eiland stated that this would have both tactical military advantages as well as strategic advantages. On the tactical military side, this would effectively mean clearing the northern parts of the Gaza Strip of all Hamas activity, while on the broader strategic side, there would be the advantage that Hamas would be seen by the Palestinian population as having lost territory, thereby contributing to the population turning on the group and pressuring Hamas towards a hostage deal. In the plan, it is also suggested that if Hamas continues the fight after the implementation of this plan, the plan can also be expanded to other areas in the Gaza Strip as well. Now, the authors of the plan relate explicitly to international law when they are proposing it, stating that such a siege is permitted by international rules of war as long as the civilian population is granted permission to leave. I've been asked several times about this, so I'm going to say very, very briefly that such an interpretation of international law and rules of war could be plausible, but it's far from that simple. On the one hand, international law does permit militaries to declare combat zones based on military necessity, such that if the military necessity could be substantiated, declaring this area a closed military zone could be defended. At the same time, international rules of war require a military to continuously provide humanitarian aid to civilian populations in an area that has been taken over, so that would already complicate matters for this plan. In addition, the forcible transfer and relocation of population is itself forbidden in international law, Once again, theoretically, the plan could be defended by stating that people are not being forcibly removed, they are just being suggested that they move before all humanitarian aid is cut off. What I'll say is, at best, international law would challenge many aspects of the plan, even if some of them could be defended. Now, the big question that a lot of people have been asking, is Israel implementing or planning to implement this plan? On the one hand, the plan has not been officially adopted by the Israeli government. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has consistently stated that this plan has not been officially adopted and that it is only one of the plans that would be considered. On the other hand, the plan has been publicly endorsed and welcomed by the different hawkish elements within Israel's government, specifically those who are championing the re-establishment of Israeli settlements in the Gaza Strip. Eiland himself, it's important to note, has vehemently opposed the idea of re-establishing settlements in the Gaza Strip. He has said this would constitute a security nightmare for Israel. However, the elements who are in favor of such an endeavor, including top-ranking members of Israel's cabinet, have called for the official adoption of the general's plan as a first step towards a major settlement project in the Gaza Strip. Meanwhile, despite the plan being officially one of many plans that have not been adopted, over the past month there have been many allegations that Israel is tacitly implementing the plan without officially declaring it. On October 6th of this year, the IDF launched a major operation in Jabalia refugee camp in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip, which has progressively expanded to the other areas of Gaza City. This, combined with the continued breakdown of the communication between Israel and UNRWA, as well as the discontinuation of other aid activity, has led to a substantial decrease in the humanitarian aid reaching the northern parts of the Gaza Strip. Combined with the ongoing fighting, it is estimated that some 45,000 Palestinians have evacuated the different areas of the northern parts of the Gaza Strip in the past month alone, leading to such speculations that Israel is unofficially implementing major parts of this plan. At the end of October, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken asked Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu during a meeting that took place in Israel to explicitly state that the plan is not being implemented in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip. Netanyahu responded by stating that this is not the policy that Israel is implementing, and the thought that this is the policy has caused great damage to Israel. Meanwhile, the IDF operation in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip continues to develop. Whether or not this plan is being implemented tacitly or explicitly, or even inadvertently to some extent, with this military operation, remains to be seen with regards to how the IDF continues to develop its activity in the northern parts of the Gaza Strip. That is my brief summary of the general's plan for northern Gaza. If you find these summaries informative, please do remember to send them on to anyone who you think might find them interesting. Hit that like button and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'm Alon Burstein. I'm a visiting assistant professor and Israel Institute fellow in the Department of Political Science at Tufts University. Thanks for watching.